Sick. Even better. Welcome to the Four Shiggles podcast. Welcome to the show. It's your boy, Justin. Brennan, take it away.
Welcome to the Four Shiggles podcast, sponsored by Leaves. Leave your problems behind. Also sponsored by Aroma Rice Cookers. Perfect rice, perfect every time. And we were formerly sponsored by Chick-fil-A until they bitched out.
Yeah. They did not
So,
like our pitch, so they left. Today we're going to be talking about the Underground Railroad. And World War III. And you're probably thinking, how does this all connect? Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you exactly how it all connects. But for starters, Brennan, you got something you want to say?
do you fuck with the war?
Not really, no. Do you fuck with the war?
No, not really.
Yeah, I think we kind of gauged that last episode. Today we're going to be talking about chat. Are we cooked? It's,
Are we?
yeah. That's the premise of today's show. Chat, are we cooked? And I just realized that this window back here is open. Let me get some extra sunlight in this bitch. Hard. Oh. And I found 2 fortune cookies. I'm no Chinaman, but I do know about fortune cookies, so we'll get into this later. But chat, are we cooked? And that's what we want to talk to you about today. Last episode, a lot of shit has happened, especially in the United States, but at least throughout the rest of the world as well. So, I guess for starters, we got Israel trying to confuse the American population into believing that Iran is bombing their own infrastructure, their own schools, their own, um, I guess, buildings, right? So, I mean, I can think of two reasons why they'd want to do that, and that's probably Strait of Hormuz is one. If you want to tell them what that is, Brennan.
Strait of Hormuz is a major strait in the Middle East that accounts for a huge percentage of the world's oil transfer. So, because of Iran's position, they have a lot of say in the overall logistics of like whether it's open or closed.
Yep.
And as of right now, it is closed, which is a huge issue for countries like Japan, which rely entirely on oil that comes from the Strait of Hormuz. Um, and this whole war thing is just not a good thing for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Nobody wins in war.
Nobody. Nobody. I mean, and I think another reason why they'd want the American population to believe that Iran is bombing their own infrastructure, despite having the biological son of the old leader take his place, they do want a reason to go to war and have boots on the ground. They want to, which then
hmm
actually goes into our next topic, right? Which is the draft. Have you heard about it?
I've heard a couple things, but if you want to fill me in, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Fill in our
I mean,
viewers.
it's all about the I guess political public briefing that Caroline Levitt had on the news a couple of days ago, or within the last 24 hours, where Trump couldn't not only say that he wasn't going to use nukes in Iran, but he also could not definitely say that he would not do a draft for the American population to get involved as well with this war. I personally am going to be drafting the Dodge. What do you think? I'm dodging the draft. I don't know why I said.
I mean, I was gonna run with it. That
Yeah,
was
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
swag.
yeah,
But I personally am not eligible to be drafted.
yeah,
I'm asthmatic. I have mental health issues, and I can't fucking see. I'm blind as a bat. Um,
yeah,
I don't think I'd be much use
yeah. I mean, I'm
in a draft.
nearsighted and I have asthma, and I've been to a psych ward once, but I don't know if that constitutes, my life being any more useful than a nugget. Shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry, but we're gonna keep that in there.
Also, I do want to preface one thing. I'm not necessarily correcting you, because what you said is technically right. But it's not only Israel that's trying to convince the American public that Iran is bombing its own interests. It's also the Trump administration. Trump himself, as well as Pete Hegseth, our quote unquote Secretary of War, uh, otherwise known as Pete Kegsbreath, basically said that, hey, we're not responsible for these bombings. Iran bombed itself.
Yeah,
And I don't I don't know if they think the American public is stupid. I don't know if they think the American public is gullible, but anybody with an ounce or anybody with eyeballs and 2 ears knows that's bullshit.
yeah, 1,000%, 1,000%. I mean, I just wonder what their talking point's going to be for this, because we all know that Trump has talking points that he relays to the public through media. Um, at least for every other policy or event that's happened in the U.S. at least, but nonetheless, I mean, fuck a draft, bro. Like I'm dodging that shit like Jackie Robinson on the Brooklyn Dodgers, bro. I'm dodging that shit, dude. I don't even give a fuck if I have like asthma. Like even if I didn't have asthma, I still wouldn't be inclined to fighting for a country that's at least fucked over at least what 109 other countries.
Yep. Because Donald Trump is also a draft dodger. So why are we going to war for a literal draft dodger?
Yeah, yeah. Why are we going to war for a literal draft dodger? Which actually takes us back to our next point, which is like if you're not gonna, join the draft, right? Why does it cost $11.3 billion for 6 days of war in Iran? Can we get a logistics count on that? Like, why do we need 11.3 billion taxpayer dollars to fund this war when we have billionaires and corporations? I mean, not saying that war is good. I'm just saying, why are we paying for it? Nonetheless,
Uh, that's a really good question because being at war does not help any country. It's going to destabilize our economy. It's going to destabilize the stock market. It's going to destabilize our foreign connections.
I mean, our foreign connections are already compromised at this point. It's actually
They are.
not even a joke.
They are.
It's actually
Um, and just to clarify what Justin said, the first 6 days of the Iran war has cost $11.3 billion of taxpayer money. And we're supposed to sit here and believe that we don't have enough money for public health care or for cheaper housing or more affordable groceries or any of that. It's not about whether we can or can't. It's that the government chooses not to. They choose not to.
ultimately, yeah.
That's the takeaway.
Yeah. They're like, oh, we don't need to make groceries more affordable. Let's just pump in more dollars for some more ore. Granted, it's probably for oil, like it was in Venezuela, but we'll get into that later, right? Um, let's see. Next we got Israeli intelligence using dated intel causing Iranian civilian casualties. And if you guys haven't heard, a school with what 100 girls, 100
Thereabout.
about, was bombed by Israel to demolition, killing all of those girls. Now, I'm going to say here, based off of some premonition, the intelligence being used was probably about Hezbollah, And we all know that when it comes to Palestine, Israel sees all Palestinians as Hamas. So I'm going to say here that using dated intel was actually a kind of a inconspicuous wording of saying, "Hey, we don't give a fuck if Hezbollah doesn't work here anymore. We just want to kill everyone in the building to leave a message." I mean, what do you think? I mean, there's just no way it's been like they're one of the best intelligence agencies in the world. I think.
Um, I think that, using outdated intel is dangerous. I think that it puts civilian lives at risk. And, especially when we're crossing over into the realm of open warfare, I think that, if we're going to use tactical strikes, we should be absolutely positively sure about what we're striking. Otherwise, innocents are going to get caught in the crossfire, which obviously Israel doesn't care about innocent civilians getting massacred. They've been doing it in Gaza for the last, what, 8 years?
Yeah, about probably more so in the
Well,
last
a lot,
2.
a lot longer than that, but like
Yeah,
it's been well documented in the last like decade or so. And in regards to Iran, I do want to say one thing about our decision to take out their supreme leader
yeah, yeah,
with a bombing. If the strike was approved and sanctioned by Congress, I might actually say that this is a good thing because Iran is probably the biggest state sponsorship of terrorism on earth. They massacre their own civilians. They exercise a despotic rule to maintain control over the civilian population. Um, and, I think that it's fair to say that a complete regime change in Iran would be beneficial to the civilian population. But all of the wartime operations that have occurred in Iran, at least in this recent unfolding, what seems to be a war, um, has not been approved or sanctioned by Congress. And I want to point out for our viewership that only Congress has the power to declare war. The president does not have, he does not possess unilateral ability to declare war on any country he wants. Only Congress can do that. So anything that happens going forward is illegal and unconstitutional
yeah, yeah. I mean, there would be a lot
because
more.
we all know, I don't mean to cut you off, but we all know that Donald Trump does not give a fuck about the checks and balances in regards to Congress.
I mean, I'll even go as far as to say that Congress doesn't necessarily exist in this administration at all. But I mean, even if they were looking to do it with Congress, they're still failing ultimately by replacing the old supreme leader with his son, who's just probably worse um, in the grand scheme of things. But that's neither here nor there. We're still cooked, especially with Iran's alliance with fucking China and Russia, who are literally our biggest like enemies, like when it comes to the world stage, at least. Um, it's a bit more. It's definitely a bit more nuanced than just sending our fucking troops over there. Um, but let's see. We've got. Oh, I feel like this is something that you could definitely tackle right here. Several Epstein survivors suing Pam Bondi. I mean, what's the haps with Epstein right now, anyways?
So the haps with Epstein is at least at this point in our little fucking journey, um, is the survivors of the Epstein child sex trafficking ring want justice. They want the powerful people that took advantage of Epstein's crimes to be held accountable. I don't think this is a hard thing to understand or agree with, considering that they were literally raping children, and apparently engaging in cannibalistic behavior. And, I think the only reason that we haven't seen more accountability is because of Donald Trump. Um, he put on a big show by signing the discharge petition into law, knowing fully well that he had already instructed his DOJ to not follow the law, which is kind of crazy considering that the Department of Justice is like the lead law enforcement entity in our country. So, um, as of right now, a group of, I think, between 7 and 10 survivors of Epstein's crimes are suing Pam Bondi because of her failure to adhere to this new law. And the original discharge petition was drafted by Congressman Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie. Ro Khanna is a Democrat, Thomas Massie is a Republican.
Yeah.
Um, and it explicitly says that all of the Epstein files are to be made transparent to the public, regardless of embarrassment or harm to political reputation. That is what it says in the law. Um, so I think accountability is coming, but we're not going to see true transparency until people in our government are held accountable. And that goes all the way up to the top. So I think that anybody that engaged in the Epstein crime ring should be held accountable, full stop. It doesn't matter their position or rank in the government. And until that happens, we're just going to keep seeing more lawsuits like this. We're going to keep seeing people getting sued. We're going to see, criminal proceedings. But I just think it's extremely disappointing that it took, not only did it take this long for the discharge petition to, get signed into law, but like people like Pam Bondi and Donald Trump are actively just flaunting the law and just saying, no, it just doesn't apply to me.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to follow the law. Which, if any one of us broke the law and were apprehended by authorities, we would go to court, we would get tried, and depending on the evidence and depending on the jury, we have the potential to, be convicted of crimes. So it seems to me that as of this point in time, there is a two-tier system of justice in this country. One for the rich and powerful, where they basically aren't held accountable for anything, and another for the civilian population, where we are held accountable to the fullest extent of the law, just because we're not rich and powerful.
Yeah. It's pretty true. I'd say so myself, honestly. I mean, I think someone speeding with their car in New York City is awfully more capable of being charged with a high price ticket than, say, someone in Westchester who's like in a school zone of 30 miles per hour. And that's coming from personal experience, mind you. Um, Now, there's been a bit of an operation in the back end. We're looking at, let's see, I think 10 terabytes of information from the Epstein files were leaked by hackers who got into the FBI um, interface. I believe this was yesterday. A foreign hacker compromised Epstein files held by FBI, and this happened a day ago. They actually accessed files pertaining to the Epstein investigation from 3 years ago. Uh, but here's what we don't know. It's the information in that 10 terabytes that we don't know. Um, and might I add that dozens of FBI records are missing as well from the Epstein files. So what we do know is two things: is that we do live in a two-tier system of justice, and what we also do know is that the world's powerful elite are most likely all either pedophiles or deeply depraved and sick. Um, Now, with that being said, that kind of ties into our last and final topic, which is the international court dropping the investigation of the United States and their sanction of Venezuela, which was strictly for the use of oil, just like another grab with Iran. And I'm going to probably assume the same thing with Greenland, since their glaciers are melting because of global warming. Um, but nonetheless, we all know that this is definitely at a bigger platform. It's a bigger problem, bigger than any one of us. But it does take acknowledging the problem itself to get it rectified. I believe, in my opinion, it's not really much of a discussion at this point. I think what a lot of people are losing hope in is the fact that many people in the country aren't aware, or I mean, I guess a lack of interest in becoming aware in what's going on in general. So I mean, that's the the pure purpose of this podcast in general. Because how old are you, Brennan?
27.
Yeah, I'm 26, and I can earnestly say that every other podcast I've ever seen has been complete bullshit about bullshit. I want to be one of the very few that are willing to actually discuss. We got about 8 minutes up. Do you have anything you wanna say?
Uh, get involved, people. There are a lot of protests panning out all over the country. We have to exercise our First Amendment right to peaceful protest because what is going on right now on a federal level and on a state level is just simply not okay. You know, I worry for folks in Minneapolis that have been having to deal with the ICE takeover, and I think that now that Christine Nome has been fired from her position as head of Homeland Security, it's possible that we'll start seeing some movement in the right direction. But I don't really hold a lot of hope because the new nominee for head of DHS is Mark Wayne Mullen, who is one of the biggest MAGA sycophants in Congress. And he is notorious for trying to start fights with witnesses in the middle of congressional hearings. That's what he does. Um, and I don't think that someone like that is going to succeed in this role. I don't think that someone like that is going to promote public trust in the department. And I don't think that having anyone with any ties to MAGA is going to be beneficial for the American public. MAGA is now the new like the new form of public corruption, I would say. And I think it goes without saying that Donald Trump is an extremely corrupt politician. He constantly uses his power and influence only to benefit himself and those close to him at the expense of literally everybody else in the country. So, yeah, I mean, I think that I'm going to hold out hope for the midterm elections. I think that a lot could change, but um, Donald Trump and the people around him have historically meddled in every election they've ever been a part of. So it's possible that we're going to see some, some fuck shit in regards to the midterms. But I think what's really important is that people realize the power of their vote, and the midterms are going to be like it's going to be do or die.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this is going to be the time. If we want things to change, if we want things to actually get better, if we want the scale of power to shift in the direction of the American people as it should be, we need to vote a lot of people out, like a lot. And I'm seeing a lot of special and runoff elections in like deep red states like Texas, where the Democratic candidates are far outperforming the Republican ones because I think that everything that's happening right now has kind of been a necessary evil in that people who have historically voted Republican for like their whole lives are realizing that they can no longer trust that party with their well-being, whether it be financial, whether it be strictly political, whether it be just based in policy. Um, Everything that has happened since Trump was elected a second time has really started to wake people up to the importance of being, politically involved. And I think the craziest thing to me is I've been going to protests lately. I've been going to things like No Kings. There was a protest in regards to the Iran war. And what's really refreshing to me is that when you go to these protests, you're guaranteed to meet people that carry the same beliefs as you, but didn't always carry those beliefs. So, like, um, for example, when I went to No Kings, I think it was in February, January or February. Um, I met some veterans who said that they voted for Trump and they were extremely pissed off about the fact that his administration was directly going after, veterans' benefits and welfare. And I could go down the road of like trying to be like, oh well, like we told you so, we warned you, yada yada yada, but I don't think that really helps anybody. Um, and you know, there's another No Kings protest coming up later this month. And I really encourage everybody to look into it and see how they can get involved. Because even in my like even in like my small town in Nowheresville, Pennsylvania, like the last No Kings was the largest protest this town has ever seen by a mile.
Yeah. By a landslide, probably. Yeah.
So,
No matter the
just
city you're in, no matter the state you're in, there's probably a protest. Get involved in community aid. Get involved in uh, community outreach as well. Look into different programs with Big Brother, Big Sister.
yep. It's time to get angry, people.
Yeah,
It's time to get involved. It's time to start looking to the future, and not getting stuck on just like the absolute shit show that is the government right now.
yeah. And
Um,
more importantly, violence is
and
the answer. If all else fails, violence is the answer. It's always been the answer. The government just tells you that so that you won't revolt. But violence has been the answer consistently, regardless of what side you're on. Um, yeah, I mean, Brandon, you want to do the outro?
Sure. This has been the First Shiggles podcast with Justin and Brennan. Sponsored by Lee's, Leave Your Troubles Behind. Sponsored by Aroma Rice Cookers, perfect rice, perfect every time. And formerly sponsored by Chick-fil-A. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for watching. We're gonna try and get this going for next Thursday as well. I feel like Thursdays are pretty like I feel like all the shit happens from like Saturday to Thursday, and that's the real week. And then Friday, Saturday is like a little day off or whatnot. But thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next Thursday. Ciao.
Peace out.
Hey, 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 hey.